limits the mere thought of leaving you out of this conversation has Nick Farabaugh near tears.
Nick, I think that one thing that made me definitely not tear up, actually maybe some tears of joy, is that they utilized the middle of the field, including on that DK Metcalf touchdown, and including Kenneth Gainwell at times being able to utilize his speed and agility. How much do you think that that can continue against the Lions, or is that just matchup-based with Miami?
Well, the middle of the field in this matchup was definitely matchup-based. They play so much cover two that was a natural thing. Now, the Lions are kind of a coverage outlier in terms of how they run their defense. They run a lot of cover two man. That's just not a common coverage nowadays, but they do it. And so that's something that's going to be different. But I think it can be something they utilize. I mean, look at what they did over the middle of the field. They had two really big plays to Pat Freiermuth over the middle of the field. They had that touchdown to Metcalf. They had a really nice drawn-up play to MVS. I know it ended up outside the hashes, but that was a middle-of-the-field concept. So they were continuously beating the middle of the field, and that's what you should do when you see that cover two coverage, because then it makes the flats open. And we saw that whenever the Steelers were able to hit the middle of the field, you saw them sag off Gainwell on the edge. He was able to catch the ball and get some really good yardage on the edge. And so that is exactly how you work an offense together. And so the middle of the field's tough to open up sometimes. It is the most dangerous area of the field. But when you are ripping it with confidence like Rodgers was, and you can make throws like he did, he can still make tight window throws over the middle of the field. We saw that on the Metcalf touchdown. It was an unbelievable high-level throw. I mean, I'm going to venture to say 85% of quarterbacks cannot make that throw. Rodgers at 42 still has the juice in his arm to make tight window throws. So the middle of the field, you can see it. It gives you explosives. That's what they need. They can be a dink and dunk offense that runs the ball heavily if they can get chunk gains over the middle of the field off those plays to set that up. And so that's exactly the type of offense Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin want. And really, when they can just impose their size, I really think that's the start of all of that. You know, when they impose their size, they just mash people. I thought that's really what happened in the second half. The Steelers just mashed the Dolphins up front, and it ended up opening everything, the middle of the field and all of that, to kind of work off it.
Yeah, man, it really did. And I thought that their first drive of the second half, they just did what was sensible, which was the run game's working, so keep handing it off. Just keep handing it off, and then the play action just becomes really, really easy. All right. Set up the Lions game for us, Nick. What are we looking at here? I guess a team with an extremely depleted secondary and an explosive offense, yes?
That's exactly what you're looking at. This is a Lions team that is still very explosive offensively. You think about Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs when you talk about the explosiveness they have, and then they have a phenomenal chain mover in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who needs no endorsement from me. Their offensive line still, I think, is a little exploitable. They still have a great player in Penei Sewell, of course, but guys like Taylor Decker, maybe not the player he once used to be. They have struggles on the interior, and I think that's something, you know, if you can get Derek Harmon back, maybe the Steelers can try and exploit that a little bit. Throw Jared Goff off schedule. Jared Goff, really good on schedule. He'll make anticipation throws, but when you can get some pressure on him, that's when you can start to get him into those turnover-worthy plays. That's what the Steelers need in this matchup to slow them down. In terms of their defense, you know, it's going to be all about playing up front. I mean, that's really where the Steelers have to win. They have to win in these trenches, because if you can get on the secondary of the Lions, I think that's where you get the explosives. The Steelers are not going to fool anybody by having an elite wide receiver room, but they do have tight ends. I think that can exploit some of the seam balls. And when you miss Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, and Terrion Arnold in that Lions secondary, I mean, it's just battered. So, you know, you would hope, you know, I would come out, honestly, very similarly to how the Steelers played the Ravens. They're going to get a lot of cover two man, so they're going to get some help. So DK Metcalf is probably going to be pretty bracketed in this game. I don't think you're going to be able to just throw deep balls down the sideline to him, which means I think you're going to be able to maybe hit some big plays to other guys. So I would think about, you know, playing off that, trying to hit deep posts, hit the seam balls early in the game. This, to me, I mean, when you look at cover two, it screams Pat Freiermuth.